Okay, for this video, I'm showing you how to do the part that everyone has questions about in Lab 6, the Part B section where you have to think for yourself to create your own table with just based on a description. The first thing you need to do is you need to visualize exactly what this report should look like. So there's a description that that you should that you have in the actual lab, and I had it right here. This is it, the problem. User experience and skills gains in Part A. Complete the following report. History of products ordered by each customer on each order placed. You should have this customer information, 4 pieces. You will need an order ID, order date, and date shipped, sorted by order date, so the most recent order is first. And the report should show the products ordered on each order with the corresponding order ID, unit price, and quantity. And you should probably want to use a subform for the order details. So this is the concept. Now, I don't want you to submit an Excel file, so please don't make things complicated by submitting an Excel file. I'm in Excel the same way I'd be using a whiteboard in a classroom, just to kind of lay out for you what this looks like, because when you get a description like this, you have to be able to visualize what it is you're trying to accomplish, or else you're not going to be able to point and click and put the fields in the right place. So this is what it looks like at a first cut. Now, when we actually get into Access, we'll have this basic layout, but things might change a little bit based on just where um, Access naturally puts things, and it makes sense. So rather than mess things up, you just leave it the way it is. But generally, this is what it's asking for. A customer ID, the name of the company, who the contact person is, and what their phone number is. And then you want each order, their order ID, the order date, and the date shipped. And then this information, which would be the order ID. It says, I believe, product ID. What did it say up here? Corresponding order ID, unit price, and quantity. Well, that's related to the product. It doesn't make sense to not have anything here, related to the product, because it says it should show the products ordered on each order. So I put the description of the product here, but you could have, um, you know, product ID in there if you wanted, but I think the description is best. Then the unit price, and then the quantity, and then everything that's on that order. And then if there was another order, you want, if one exists in the database, this might be order 225, and it would have its own order date and date shipped. And that would be different. Maybe it was ordered on the 5th, shipped on the 17th or something, and have a different order ID of 225. And then all of the different items that might be on that other order for that company customer, and then you'd have 225, the description. I don't know what did they order, a towel. Unit price is $6, and the quantity would be 10 towels. These are obviously wholesale. You can't get a nice towel for $6. Okay, and and maybe that's all there was on that order. And then you'd have it looking all really nice, so that everything's consistent in your final report. Now again, I'm doing this in Excel, but do not submit an Excel file. Again, I really want to emphasize that. I don't want to confuse anybody. Don't think that there's points awarded for turning in an Excel file. It's not. It's because I want you to be able to visualize what the description says you should create. Okay, that's all. And then you'd have your next customer here, maybe customer, 210, and the company name would be here, and all the other information related to who that company is, all their company information, and then you'd have all the orders for that particular new company below it. Okay, and I believe they mentioned report should show something was sorted on each order. Okay, sorted by order date so that the most recent order is first. So you want to make sure that that's in there as well. So, and that's what I did here was the most, oh, they said the most recent order is first. Okay. So if the most recent order would be that, and the older order by order date might be that. So the further you go down your list, the older the orders get. Okay. So that's the concept of what you're doing. So now let's see how we would do this in Excel and Access. The first thing you need to know is this information right here would be in the main form. Okay. That's your main form. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create a subform that is all of this information here in blue. And what's going to allow you to be able to link up, this order information with this product information on that order is the fact that the order ID will be linked together. Okay. It's too much for Access to be able to you to just use a wizard and put all of this information, like all of this, in one wizard um, session. Instead, you're going to have to use the wizard to create this, and then go into design view of this report. And in the details section, insert a subreport, which then, when invoked, will bring up a wizard where you can then put this information into that same report that this is put in. And if I've inadvertently used the word form or something instead of report, I mean report throughout this entire video. So that's the overall concept of what you're doing. Now, let's go into Access and do that. And I've done it here already just to test it out. I don't think I've got it sorted by order date in the right, or maybe I do. Yeah. Um, but you can see I've got the customer here, their name, their contact name, and their phone. I've got the order ID, order date, and this is ship date, but there's a bit of cleanup needed to be done in design view for you to see ship date. And then I have this particular order. I have the product on it. I have the quantity and the unit price, and that's what they've asked for. And there's a lot of orders for that one customer named Alfke, Alfred's Future Kiste. And then when I go down here, here's the next code for the next customer, Ana Trujillo Emperedados. Don't laugh at my Spanish. Okay, so and then you have, the order ID, and there was only one item there, and then you have the next order, and there were several items on it, etc. And this ends up being a pretty long report. You can tell by the distance on the scroll bar here. But that's what they're asking you to do. You should also clean up the title. I didn't do it here, but you go into design view and clean up the title of the report as well. And as I said, there's a lot of data here, so you end up with this, a lot of this weighting and my circular wait for me mouse pointer here. But that is what we're going to try to do. Okay, so see, I want you to clean this up too and put a nice title on it, like, I don't know, customer order report or something like that across the top. You clean it up by right clicking, going to design view. Then you can move this into the center. You can go into it, change the name. You can move around. And one thing that bears discussion is, say yes. One thing that bears discussion is that you see this big space right here between, these labels and this actual data here. That's something that you want to avoid. It means that when you're in design view, you left too much space in the section of the report that you are designing. And so if I want to fix that, which I can't do very well because my system is loading all the data, is right click on customers here, go to design view, and then shorten up the bars that separate each section of the report. Let me show you what I mean. See this design view. This right here would need to come up like that, so that when I save it and then view it, you see how that excess space between the labels and the actual data has disappeared. And that's true. Please, a lot of people submit it to me with a lot of space, like a big, huge space between each of this row of data and then all of the actual detail. I don't want to see that. I want to see a really nicely formatted report. Okay, so let's bring that to life. I'm going to, when this is done loading all this mountain of data in here, I am going to then start over again. So this is going to make you weep. It's all done. Delete that. And I'm going to delete. Won't let me. Got to shut it down. Okay. Now I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to delete that. We're going to start over. So like I said, back in Excel, the first thing we have to do is create, using the wizard, a form that has all of this information in it. Customer information in 4 pieces and 3 pieces of order information. So I'm going to go here into create. I'm going to go to report wizard. And I'm going to start off with the customers table, and I'm going to put in the customer ID, the company name, the contact name, and their phone. And then I'm going to go into the order table, and I'm going to put in the order ID, which is absolutely critical, the order date, and the shipped date right there as well. And I'm going to go next. And this is something that a few people made mistakes on in other labs where they get mixed up as to, they might go, okay, let's do this by order, which doesn't make sense. You make sure it's customers, it's orders details by customers. So you want it by customers with customer across the top and order there. And do you want to add any grouping levels? I'm going to just leave that next. And we're going to sort it by order date, most recent first, so that would mean descending order. And we're going to go next and leave all the defaults and go finish. And bingo, we've got this. Don't let this bother you over here. See how we've got all these customer information, but you want the order information down here. So we'll fix that um, in a minute. But basically we have this started. What we do now is we right click and go to design view. And here I'm going to expand the details section for a bit. And I'm going to move all of these items like the order date, the order ID, and the ship date. And it's tricky here. Put it over the it's so that you get over the object, so you get a 4-point crosshair. Do you see how there's 4 points on the end of my mouse? That'll allow you to move it. And another thing you need to do too is you need to make your, these are called bound controls because they actually have data that will populate into them at some point. You want to make your bound controls wide enough that they'll actually fit the data. If they don't, you'll get pound signs there showing that there's data there, but it can't be fit into the bound control because you didn't make it big enough. And then we also want to take these labels here and take that and put it here. For the labels like this, it's easy because you can see, whether it's going to fit it or not, because all you're displaying is the label information itself. Okay, we've got all that in there, and now we want to move this down a little bit, and we want to insert the subform in here. To do that, you go here under the Design tab, and go down there and make sure that, see where it says Use Control Wizards? Make sure that this is looking pink or colored, whatever color your system is using, because if I uncheck it, you see how Use Control Wizards is not currently selected because it's not pink where the wand is. So I click on that, Go down. Now it's pink, you see down there. So that means it's going to behave like a wizard. So this right here is called the subform or subreport, and I draw one in here. And then up pops this wizard. Use existing tables and queries, keep that default. Go next, and now what we want to do is we want to pull out the order details. We want the order ID, we want the product ID, and we want the quantity. And they also want the price, but we don't have a price in there anywhere. So we have to ask, where can we get a price? Oh, price, or price, where art thou? Well, we'll go down here to products and see, okay, the unit price is there, and so is the product name, which to me would make sense to have in there. So even though they don't ask for it, I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to put the unit price in there too. And then I'm going to go next, and they're going to say, how are you going to link up this subform to this other form information? And I just accept the default. Go next. And order details subreport, that's what it's going to be called. And finish. Now at this point, we don't know whether this is going to look decent or not. All we have it is in design view. So the moment of truth, which I hope goes well for you, is you X out of this. I want to save it to this customers report. I'm going to say yes. And you can see in the navigation window, the main report that contains the customer and order information is in my navigation pane under reports. And the order details subreport will be down here. And when I'm grading, those are two things that I look for. Now what I want to do to look at it, I have to double click on the customers form, which will drag the order details subreport into it. And we open it up and we see whether I did this right. Okay, and of course we'll wait for it, but it's looking promising. I do have Alfkey Alfred's at the top. I've got the order date, the order ID, and the ship date there. It looks a little messy and crowded right here. Um, so uh, I might have to fix that, like get rid of that order details subreport label that's underneath my mouse there. But as I can't scroll down, but I know that it's accurate because I've done this before. So we do have a little bit of cleanup. The other thing bothering me is I guess I didn't need to put that product name in there because the product ID seems to link to the name as a lookup column or something. So I don't really need this column here as well. So, and plus you want to change your title, so you have to do what I said earlier. You right click, you go to design view, and we want to get rid of that order details subreport label. That's wrong. Um, in fact, I think I'm going to redo the subreport, and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put it in here. It looked also a little wide previously, so up comes this. Use existing tables and queries. We're going to grab from the order details the order ID, the product ID, and the quantity. And then we're going to go into the products table, and all we have to grab is the unit price because it displays the description of the product on the strength of this product ID. So then we're going to go to finish, and I'm going to shut this down. Oh, last time we didn't want that in there, so let's get rid of it. I'm going to shut this, say yes, and I'm going to open it up. And there you go. We have, once you clean up the title, you've got the customer there, you've got the order date, and the most recent one is first, evidence that the next most recent one is there. Got the order ID, the name of the product, the quantity, and the unit price. I can see everything that's, all of the fields here. There's no pound signs indicating that my bound control that accesses this column in the database is too narrow in design view. And I've got all the information that they asked for, and everything looks party. So the only thing I would change here is I would go into design view, and I would move this over, and I would go orders by customer, which gives it a nice title. Save. And then go back here, bring it up. And then I have a very beautiful report. One thing you might do is maybe indent the order date, order ID, ship date, maybe line these up a little better so that the indentation, it's very clear when you go from customer to customer. I'd probably move that in a little bit so that it sections it off better. Maybe put it over top of this whole little section here. Move it all over, maybe to here so it indents a little bit. But other than that, that would meet the requirements of this section of the lab. And I wish you luck. Feel free to slow it down, to speed it up, to stop it, to rewind, do whatever you need to in order to see what I just accomplished. And enjoy. Thank you.